We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. We're here at Niagara Falls City Hall,
Niagara Falls City Hall.
and we're with the newly sworn-in mayor. But this is your second term, right?
Yes.
Mayor Paul Dyster. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How's it feel?
Well, it feels great. You know, the city of Niagara Falls has had some tough times. I think people in the city of Baltimore understand the whole northeastern United States over the course of the last few decades has had some tough economic times to deal with. Like the city of Baltimore, I think the city of Niagara Falls has aspirations for the future. The fact that we've reelected a mayor for the first time in 25 years, to me, says the community is united and trying to move forward.
Well, bring the rest of the country up to speed. This is the first re-election in 25 years.
Yes.
What's been the pattern? I mean, corruption has been a plague here.
Well, corruption and I think negative self-image. The people of the city of Niagara Falls have been in many ways their own worst enemy.
How so?
Well, one of our previous corporation councils a couple of administrations ago used to always tell people, you're never going to grow a garden if every time you plant a seed, you dig it up 2 days later to see how it's doing. Right? You have to have patience, conviction that you're moving in the right direction, and then patience to try to see positive things happen. The big good things in life are never easy to attain. They take dedication and hard work over a period of many years. And in the past, the people of the city of Niagara Falls have gotten restless and discontented. They've set off in what they thought was the right direction, and then they've been overtaken by self-doubt, recrimination. They pulled back and stop their own progress over and over again. But that pattern, it seems, is changing. The community is really, really unified, and I think the community is starting to feel better about itself.
When I think of your background, part of it is Baltimore.
Yes, it is.
Some call it the greatest institution in the world, Johns Hopkins University.
Absolutely. Johns Hopkins University. I quoted from one of my Johns Hopkins colleagues today, Michael Mandelbaum, and his new book with Thomas Friedman about American renewal and how we can recapture a sense of greatness. And I have a feeling that's going to be a very influential book. So,
now look, that's where
the
you
intellectual lights of Baltimore are coming to the forefront again in the United States of America.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, you said is that the quote, the book that had to do with how we are the problem?
Yes, that's right.
But yet we are also the solution?
And we are also the solution. I thought that's a great message for Niagara Falls. I love the city of Baltimore. I lived on the 3800 block of Greenmount Avenue.
What?
Used to get my crabs at Ollie Beck's, and it still feels like a hometown, really, to me, Baltimore.
But what made you come back home?
Well, I've got 9 younger brothers and sisters. All but one live here in the Niagara Falls area. My wife was my high school sweetheart, so she was from Niagara Falls. She's the oldest of 6. And all but one of her siblings are still in the Niagara Falls area. So that great sense of family and community, I think, is what drew us back. By the time that we left Maryland, we'd moved closer to Washington, D.C. We were both working in Washington, D.C. I never found Washington, D.C. to have the same feel, though, as Baltimore.
No.
Baltimore was a real hometown.
I love D.C. It was more cosmopolitan and less
Unless you're
family.
living on Capitol Hill or something like that. I mean, D.C. is a nice place to visit, like when you got people and you take them to the Smithsonian and you go everywhere for free. That's great.
We have better food in Baltimore.
Absolutely. Yeah,
especially in the seafood realm.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I still miss that. But I keep in touch with a lot of my friends from Baltimore and try to keep abreast of what's happening in the city. And really, I still love the city, and I feel like I brought a little bit of the city of Baltimore here to city government in Niagara Falls by hiring Donna Owens as our city administrator, because of course one of the places that she worked was in the city of Baltimore. So that's something that we share.
Every area in the world, everybody has their specialty. Baltimore crab cake, but here it's Niagara Falls. How does the chief executive, how do you translate having Niagara Falls, a wonder of the world, into an asset for the city?
That's the $64,000 question here in Niagara Falls. I think there are 2 paths by which that happens. First, the existence of the falls it is related to the structure of the Great Lakes, the flows of water, and that is important in and of itself. Before you even get to the tourism issue, you've got hydropower and then fresh water itself as a resource. 1/5 of the freshwater resource of the world flows here over in Niagara Falls, and that's going to become increasingly important.
1/5?
1/5 of the world's fresh water.
We get it in Baltimore? Remnants of it? Some
What's
of
that? No. I mean, I can remember Loch Raven, Reservoir.
Yeah.
Pretty Boy Reservoir. What was the third one? There were 3 reservoirs that fed Baltimore, but Liberty, I think, was the third one. I used to go fishing there when I was in graduate school. That's, I couldn't afford crabs most of the time, so I would go and I ate an awful lot of catfish out of those reservoirs. I hope there was nothing bad in them because I lived on that for several years. But that's just a drip of water compared to Niagara Falls. And hydropower, which is clean and green and carbon-free, is going to become more and more important in the future. But fresh water itself, oftentimes you'll hear scholars say fresh water is going to be the oil of the 21st century. There's just not enough fresh water to go around. So those are great assets for the city of Niagara Falls going forward. But then I think when you think of Niagara Falls, you always think of this great icon of the natural environment. And as I said today in my inaugural address, God gave us this great, fantastic natural resource. Maybe now we're finally figuring out how to use it. And I think that we learned a great lesson here this last year. We had the National Trust for Historic Preservation come to the Buffalo Niagara Falls region, and it gave us an opportunity to do a little soul searching about what we're really about. The problem in the past, you've had people that have come halfway around the world to look at Niagara Falls, but they look at the falls, they take a couple pictures,
and
then they're gone, right? And they never learn about the great stories of this place. And so we're working now to reinterpret, rediscover our own history.
Redefine yourself, maybe?
Well, remember things that we had forgotten. We had forgotten that we were the last stop on the Underground Railroad, that Harriet Tubman brought.
I'm so glad you
slaves
mentioned
to
it.
freedom
Oh.
here. We had a Civil War era customs house that was sitting in disrepair, that was ready to fall down, that we put onto the Registry of Historic Places, and we put the resources into it. We're just finishing the external renovation of that now. By next year, we'll have an Underground Railroad Interpretive Center at that location.
And
the bridge that Harriet Tubman used is long since gone, but there's a new bridge in its place, and the site is still the original historic site.
I have to tell you, Mayor, when the lady you mentioned, the city administrator lady,
Don Owens, yep.
Well, she sucker punched me. She didn't tell me that we were going to see the Freedom Crossing, and it was breathtaking. I could only liken it unto the slave castles on the west coast of Ghana, because I would think that is where, if there's any physical place, when Martin Luther King said he'd been to the mountaintop, that was literally the mountaintop. So bring me up to speed with what, does that still mean what it meant back then? To get to Niagara Falls, a black person to make it this far, there had to be some nice white people along the way, and then
Absolutely.
Just 1,000 yards away on the other side is freedom.
That's the fantastic thing about the story of the Underground Railroad, is that it's a story of everyone cooperating together for a common goal way before the rest of society has figured out this is the direction that society has to travel. And I think that's a story that we should never, ever let fade into obscurity. One of the things that's happened as we've reinvigorated the site of the Customs House and the original suspension bridge, and we've rediscovered the history of Harriet Tubman, we're learning new stories, and we're learning now stories of the Cataract House Hotel in downtown Niagara Falls. The hotel itself is long gone. It was destroyed by fire many decades ago. But we're learning the names of real people who worked at the hotel, who created a sort of anti-slavery underground here in the city of Niagara Falls that over many years
I think that's something to be very proud of.
I think there's a movie coming here. I'm already figuring out who we're going to cast as what character, but these are people, I think they're going to be historic figures that are going to be elevated to the level of Harriet Tubman as the scholarly research comes in. We've not lost the story of these people's lives, and I think there's some fantastic new stories of the Underground Railroad.
Well, maybe you've got to invite Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. Maybe they could help out. Maybe a Spike Lee. I think Harriet Tubman deserves a movie. And I mean, honestly, Mayor, how many African Americans, in the United States actually get to see what I saw a day or so ago with that Freedom Crossing.
I think it's also a fantastic story to tell for international visitors coming here. And you talk about places where there's now an emerging middle class in Africa, like Ghana, for example, or Nigeria. When those people come here, they want to know the experience of black people in America.
Other than a hip-hop video.
Yeah, and especially now with Barack Obama, our first African-American president, this is a fantastic story about our country that we need to tell the world. And I think one of the things that's really exciting about the train station project is that we've got the Underground Railroad Heritage Museum going in the same place that we're building a station for President Obama's high-speed rail network, and we couldn't be prouder of that. I think that's what a fantastic synergy. Sometimes the Lord works in strange ways, but we've got a lot of positive energy focused on that one very magical place, as you say.
Does God still have a place in this country?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, in Maryland and New York and so many places, I just wonder. I mean, that wasn't one of the prescribed questions, but I just wonder sometimes. It's as if we've turned our back as a nation on God.
Well, I think there's a fine line we have to walk.
And I'll stop right there. I mean,
there's a fine line we have to walk as Americans, because much of the success of our country has been built on tolerance and diversity. And this is a place where a lot of people came to get away from religious freedom. Or excuse me, to get away from religious persecution, to seek religious freedom. So we've got to be careful that we always protect, our reputation, but also the reality of this place as a tolerant place going forward. But I think it's also the case you can't look at the broad scope of American history without seeing the role that belief in God and that religion has played throughout. It stands behind many of the values in our U.S. Constitution. I think we've turned to our religious values repeatedly at those times when our nation has been threatened, and I think that we there find font of strength as a country that helps get us through the tough times.
And you actually believe this. You live this. This is not. It's not an act here.
No, this is the city of Niagara Falls is a difficult city. It's a small city that has a lot of big city problems, and that, as I said before, has had some combination of bad luck and bad decision making that have held it back for a long time. So
selfishness.
It's a tough job being mayor. But I was going to say the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is I think to myself, "Oh dear God, I'm mayor of the city of Niagara Falls. Help me!" And I start the day every day with a prayer. And one of the things that people are doing, I know, and even today, the day of the inauguration, people have come up and said, we're still praying for you. And I said, don't you stop. I can feel that. To me, that's a tangible thing out there. And I think it's part of the sense of renewal that people have here in the city of Niagara Falls. And I hope that that's going to continue. And I think that's, again, it's not something that belongs to only one denomination. I think it's something that can pull us all together as a people and create a sense of unity and purpose that'll help get us through the tough times.
It's rather cliches, but is diversity important here in the city of Niagara?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a city that is defined by diversity. It's a border city. It's at an international crossroads, and then on top of it, it's an international tourist destination. So it's like the United Nations here. You got people from all around the world, coming through the community, and then you've had wave after wave of immigration here. There was a strong African American presence here even before the Civil War because of the proximity to Canada. So you got a very, very diverse community. And when you got a very, very diverse community, there's no middle ground. That diversity is either going to be your strongest asset or it's going to be your biggest problem. And I think at various times in our past here in Niagara Falls, it's been a problem. But I think one of the things that we're doing now is we're coming to redefine ourselves and to see our diversity as a very important asset for us going forward. And I think that is perhaps the most fundamental part of the transformation and attitude that's taken place here in the city of Niagara Falls. I think we're starting to get comfortable with ourselves and who we are, and it's helping us to pull together as a community and to move forward in a positive direction.
Good deal. The mayor of the city of Niagara Falls, Mayor Paul Dyster. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.